with you today that was written by a very special friend of mine. Her name is Devy Eyler, and she grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. Devy had always wanted to tell about her experiences on the farm, so that's what we are going to do today. The name of our book today is Paws, Claws, Feathers, and Fur. How will we all get along? You can see the barn and look at all the animals down at the bottom. We see chickens and sheep and dogs and pigs, and we're going to learn how these animals get along. Do you always get along with your friends or your friends at school? Do sometimes you argue and fight and can't agree on things? Well, that happens in the animal world too, as we're going to find out on Devy Eyler's farm. The first thing we see are these two right here. Aren't they something? They're very special. And it says at the bottom, all things bright and beautiful, all things great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. And here we have the title page of our book, and it's very similar to the cover, as you can see. And we're going to get started in just a minute. Look here, we're going to see a picture of the farm. So let me fold it back for you. And there we have Miss Rose's farm. And in the background, you can see the farmhouse and you can see the barn. And in that barn are some very special animals. It says, "Hello, my friend. Welcome to Miss Rose's farm. Come along, follow me through the tall oak trees and over the grassy hill. Look there in the distance is the farmhouse, the open fields, the old stone barn. Miss Rose has lived on this farm all her life. She loves the land, and she loves her many farm animals. Some have paws, some have claws, some have feathers, some have fur. Creatures great and small, Miss Rose loves them all. Let's meet a few of them. Here's one right here. Do you know what kind of animal that is? What kind of bird? Why, of course, that's an owl. Owls are known to be very wise. Let's find out about the owl. It says, look up, sitting high on the roof of the farmhouse is Albert Owl. Albert is very wise, a very large barn owl. He has bright round eyes that let him see very far. If someone is coming up the dirt road to Miss Rose's farm, Albert quickly alerts Horace Mouse. Horace then scampers to let Miss Rose know that a visitor is coming. Owls and mice aren't usually friends, but on this farm, Albert and Horace make a very good team. Albert is very important to the farm family. He makes everyone feel safe and secure. Let's find out about another animal on the farm. Down at our feet is Horace Mouse. He's very cute, isn't he? He's very small, but he acts as if he were the biggest animal on the farm. He is a happy mouse because he has an important job here. Each morning he wakes up early and scampers around the farm to wake everyone up. Breakfast time, he squeals. Rise and shine. Time for breakfast. Thanks to Horace Mouse, everyone gets to breakfast on time. The animals on the farm love Horace because he has many friends. You're going to like him too. Let's see who else lives on this farm. In the wooden stall is Cinnamon Bun, Miss Rose's horse, and her best friend. Isn't that a beautiful horse? Cinnamon Bun loves to see Miss Rose walking down from the farmhouse kitchen to his stall. She brings him special treats like sugar cubes and carrots and apples. Miss Rose rides Cinnamon Bun for exercise every day, then brushes his beautiful coat. It makes him feel so good. He licks her hand to say, I love you. Horace Mouse loves Cinnamon Bun too. Horace climbs all the way to the top of Cinnamon Bun's head, sits between his ears. He holds onto Cinnamon Bun's long mane. The two wander all over the farmland. Cinnamon Bun is very tall, and Horace can see everything that is happening on the farm. Can you picture Horace the Mouse sitting up here and holding on to Cinnamon Bun's mane as they travel through the farm? I'd say that's a pretty lucky mouse. Take a peek next to Cinnamon Bun's stall. There is Sunny Calf lying on a bed of straw. There's Sunny Calf. When Sunny was born, he was sick and very weak. His mother, Elsie, stayed at his side day and night, giving him love and care. All the other animals in the barn took turns visiting Sunny and helping Elsie. Before long, Sunny gained his strength and was able to stand on his own. One day, he wandered into the pasture and met Cinnamon Bun. Remember Cinnamon Bun, the horse? Cinnamon Bun helped Sunny around the pasture, and they became good friends. Let's see who's next on the farm. Look over toward the farmhouse. There's a fuzzy dog sleeping on the porch. That is Stewie. He's cute, isn't he? Stewie is growing old and cannot run as fast as he could when he was a pup. I can't run as fast as I could either when I was young. His teeth are crooked and his tongue flops out one side of his mouth when he is hungry. When Horace Mouse sees this, he runs to the farmhouse door to alert Miss Rose that it is time for Stewie's dinner. Miss Rose is very kind to Stewie. When he is not out in the barn with the other animals, he likes to sleep on Miss Rose's lap. Stewie is a very special member of Miss Rose's farm family. Sitting on the shade of an old oak tree is Cleo the cat. Look at the bow in Cleo's hair. If Cleo likes you, she will brush your leg and purr. She likes lots of attention and thinks she is the prettiest of all the animals on the farm. Miss Rose put a bright pink bow in Cleo's hair. She likes to show it off to everyone. Cleo keeps herself fresh and clean by licking her shiny black hair. Some of the other animals are jealous of Cleo, especially Stewie Dog. He wishes his fur was pretty and shiny instead of stiff and rough. Of course, he would never admit that to Cleo the cat. Let's take a look at Cleo one more time. You're going to see her later in the story. Fuzzy Lamb has been on the farm for a long time and has been a favorite of Miss Rose. Look at that beautiful little lamb. Poor Fuzzy. His eyes are weak and he has trouble seeing. He bumps into things, trips over things, and sometimes falls down. Miss Rose is very protective of him. Sadly, Fuzzy Lamb and Hardy Goat do not get along because Hardy always wants Miss Rose's attention. A while back, Hardy Goat wandered onto the farm. He had nowhere else to stay. Hardy hopes Miss Rose will adopt him one day. But Fuzzy Lamb cries to Miss Rose, "Please tell Hardy Goat to leave. Make him go away. I was here before he came, and I know you love me best." He might be a little envious of the goat. Let's meet the goat that he's envious of. Poor Hardy Goat needs a home. Remember, he wandered up onto the farm because he had nowhere else to go. Sometimes he acts up to get attention. Cleo Cat does not like his bad attitude. But Horace Mouse tells Cleo to give Hardy a chance. Maybe if they got to know Hardy better, they would see that he could get along with everyone. One day, not long ago, Hardy Goat was eating grass in the pasture and saw Sunny Calf and Horace Mouse. Hardy decided to walk over to them and act like he was smarter than both of them. You probably know that's not a good idea. Well, it's never good to show off, and Horace Mouse did not like the way Hardy was acting, so he scampered off to tell Miss Rose. Sunny Calf just wanted to ignore Hardy Goat's bad behavior. After all, poor Hardy had no home. But Horace Mouse was already at the farmhouse telling Miss Rose that Hardy Goat was causing trouble. Miss Rose is so kind. She explained to Horace that Hardy had nowhere else to live and needs special love and care. And let's take a look at that little goat who needs a home and needs someone to look after him. She convinced Horace Mouse to tell the others to give him one more chance to become nicer. Just Hardy Goat's pen is the hen house. Perky Chicken is one of Miss Rose's favorite hens, but some of the other hens are jealous of Perky. Do you see Perky? She's from the hen house. You see all those chickens and hens behind her. Well, they might be a little envious too. Let's find out why. You see, each morning Perky lays more eggs than any other chicken. Miss Rose tells the other chickens, "You must not be angry at Perky because she is able to lay more eggs than you can. Just always do your best and lay as many eggs as you can, and I'll be happy. Be nice to one another. Share the corn, and I know you can all become good friends." Listen, do you hear a squealing noise? That's Suey Pig in the muddy playpen. Look at Suey Pig. He's pretty cute, isn't he? Suey is the smallest of 12 baby piglets born to his mama, Pinky. Little Suey needs lots of attention. It will take time for him to gain his strength. Little Suey Pig walks with a limp because one of his legs is shorter than the others. His brothers and sisters know how much he struggles, so they make him feel safe and secure in the pig pen. Suey Pig is very curious. He wants to learn everything he can. He's learning so fast he started teaching the other animals about the farm. Suey Pig has earned their respect and their friendship. Let's take one more look at little Suey Pig. You know, pigs are very smart, and they're actually very clean. Just because they play in the mud doesn't mean they can't clean up. I'll bet you sometimes get dirty and have to clean up. Oh, look up. Albert Owl has spotted us. Do you remember Albert Owl at the beginning of the story? Who is there? Albert Owl calls from high up in the tree. Who? Albert Owl's head spins from one side to the next, and he blinks his big eyes. What's the fuss about? Cleo Cat answers from the base of the tree. I'm on lookout, calls Albert as he scans the farm. It's my job. Who's there? Oh, Albert Owl, it's just me. There's Cleo Cat. She doesn't like Albert Owl getting into her business. Everything is perfectly okay, Cleo explains. She uses her paw to adjust the bright pink bow she wears next to her left ear. You'll like my friends, Cleo says. Friends, Cleo Cat? What friends? I did not hear about any friends coming to our farm. Why was I not told? Who gave you permission? Albert Owl asks. Cleo licks her front paw and brushes her shiny fur. Oh, calm down, Albert. They are just not my friends. They are all of our friends. They're reading this book right now. They wanted to know how the animals on our farm get along. I invited them to our home, Miss Rose's farm, to see for themselves. Albert Owl stands tall on his legs, holds tightly to the branch of the oak tree with his talons. Well, I should have been told. I am the lookout, and no one told me we were expecting visitors. Everyone knows I have a job to do up in this tree, he said proudly. Cleo Cat steps back from the tree and gives it a good look. She takes a deep breath and scampers up the tree branch by branch to a place just below Albert Owl. See, I can be a lookout too, she purrs. I have perfect balance. That may be, Albert Owl hoots, but you still can't fly. With that, he spread his beautiful wings and took off toward the barn. If you must know, Cleo meows loudly, Miss Rose gave me permission to invite our friends today. But Albert Owl cannot hear her. Limb by limb, step by step, Cleo safely climbs back down to the ground. Well, friends, let's go meet the others, Cleo calls as she scampers to the barn door. She uses her shoulder to nudge it open. It's a little dark in here. She jumps atop some bales of hay next to a window and nudges the shutters open with her nose. You ever see animals do that? Push with their nose? Sunlight fills the barn. There, that's perfect. Well, hello there, Cleo. Are these our visitors? Asks a tiny field mouse with a long piece of hay in his mouth. You've met the mouse before. Yes, these are our friends, Horace Mouse. They are reading this book because they want to learn how the animals on the farm get along. Soon other animals gather in the warm sunlight by the open door. Welcome, speaks a very tall horse with a very low voice. I'm glad you could stop by today. It makes me happy to see children read, and it makes me happier when they're reading about animals. Cleo Cat cuts in. That's Miss Rose's horse, Cinnamon Bun. He's a favorite around here. Every day, Miss Rose rides him in the fields far from the barn. Then he comes back and tells us about all the wonderful things he saw. Soon a cluster of chickens gather around. Cinnamon Bun, cluck, cluck, lucky horse, says one. Cluck, cluck, lucky horse. All the chickens start clucking, cluck, 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 cluck. Oh, you chickens, settle down, Cleo and Horace say together. Do not forget, we have guests here. Horace takes the piece of straw from his mouth. These children reading the book are here to set a good example. And here's the chickens clucking. They're a little envious or a little jealous that the horse gets to go out every day, Cinnamon Bun, with Miss Rose. The children reading this book want to learn how we get along at Miss Rose's farm. Cluck, cluck, welcome, the chickens call. Cluck, cluck, welcome, friends. Sorry, I lost my place. Ruff, ruff, woof, woof. Welcome, barks a small tan dog. I just ran over from the farmhouse. We've been expecting you. I'm Stewie. The little dog sits up and extends his furry paws. Woof, woof, bark, bark. Oh, that's Stewie. He's like teacher's pet. He gets to sleep in the farmhouse with Miss Rose almost every night. Bleats a gray and brown goat. But, I never get to sleep in the farmhouse. But, I really want to. I really want to. Well, Hardy Goat, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but, well, you don't smell very good, Stewie Dog explains, and you have a very bad habit. Sometimes you behave badly, interrupts a woolly white lamb. Miss Rose lets you sleep in the farmhouse. If Miss Rose lets you sleep in the farmhouse, you would eat the curtains and the sheets and the blankets and all the towels. She would be mad, and that would be bad. So no, Hardy Goat, you don't get to sleep in the house. Now, Fluffy Lamb, scolds Cleo Cat. Our friends came to learn how we get along at Miss Rose's farm. That's why they're reading this book today. Now, Fluffy Lamb is trying to tell Horace Goat he shouldn't ever go in the house because he eats almost everything. Remember, the lamb and the goat in the story don't really get along. But, we do not always get along, do we, Hardy Goat says quietly. I'm still trying to learn how to get along with others. Do you ever have that trouble? I do. Well, Hardy Goat, I had to learn too, clucks a large white chicken flapping her wings. I'm sure we all had to learn to get along with each other, replies Cinnamon Bun. We come from different places, and we are different in so many ways. Just look at Fluffy Lamb. She has beautiful wool, and Perky Chicken lays the most beautiful eggs, and Sunny Cow gives us delicious milk to drink. Suddenly, Horace Mouse scurries over. I bet the children reading this book think we always get along. There's Horace Mouse. Do you think all the animals in a farm get along? I think we're finding out that they don't. They're kind of like us. We don't always get along. They may think we have been friends forever, but some days we fight like cats and dogs. Oh, sorry, Stewie and Cleo Cat. I didn't mean to upset you. Horace put the piece of straw back in his mouth and began chewing. You know, Horace Mouse is right. I remember one very special day when we were not being very nice to one another, Stewie states, and we had to get along very quickly, Perky Chicken said. Because if we didn't, Fuzzy Lamb added, well, it would have been very bad, very bad. Let's tell our friends, moo, 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 more about it, Albert Owl, moos the calf. Yes, please tell them, squeaks Sue. You are the very best storyteller. Oh, yes, tell them, Albert Owl. The animals cheer all together. Can you tell it's getting a little windy out here? Albert Owl takes his position on a wooden beam above the barn's wooden wide doors. There's Albert Owl. He's very sage and intelligent, and he's like the teacher of the group. He's going to tell them the story of a day that they needed to all get along. Very well, he states, I will. Come gather around. The animals move closer to Albert Owl. Let me begin by saying this is a story we will always remember. Albert Owl sits up straight and tall like a teacher in front of a classroom full of students. Albert Owl begins the story. I can still remember that cool, crisp autumn morning. The leaves were all falling from the trees, and hay in the fields had been moved to be stored for the winter. He pauses a moment to straighten the feathers around his neck. That day, Horace Mouse had awoken early, as he always does. He scampered throughout the barn to make sure all the animals were up on time. You see, if they overslept, they would miss breakfast, and breakfast is very important. You know that, don't you? Our friend Horace Mouse is so small and so very fast that he can search every crack and corner of this big old barn in no time at all. But that morning, Albert Owl explains, Horace Mouse couldn't find Stewie Dog anywhere. He searched from one end of the barn to the other, from the floor to the roof, but Stewie was nowhere to be found. Poor Horace was getting frustrated. Albert looked down at the little field mouse. Do you remember that, Horace? Of course I do, Horace squealed. After searching for a long, long time, I finally found Stewie Dog. He was still asleep at the farmhouse lying on Miss Rose's lap, snoring away. A snoring dog, Horace squeals with laughter. Stewie Dog laughs too. He laughs so hard, his tongue falls out of his mouth, and he has a big, silly smile. He looks pretty silly to me. Ahem, Albert Owl states with authority. If I may continue for our guests. The animals grow quiet and pay close attention. Well, on this very fine morning, Miss Rose had come to the barn to gather eggs from the chickens for breakfast. Now, readers know that one of our chickens is very shy. Our dear Perky Hen is very sweet, but very shy. Oh, cluck, cluck, I am shy, Perky Hen says quietly as she tucks her head beneath her wing. Albert Owl continues, but readers also know that our shy Perky Hen lays more eggs than any other chicken in the hen house. Every morning, Miss Rose tells Perky what a very special chicken she is. But on this day, the other chickens became so jealous of this attention that they pecked Perky on her back and made her very sore. Do you remember this, chickens? Albert Owl asks. We do. We sure do, clucked the brood of chickens. We remember that. Cluck, cluck, cluck. We were not very nice to Perky Hen, and cluck, cluck, cluck. We're so sorry. You were not very nice to Perky Hen that day at all, Albert Owl states. Luckily for Perky, Miss Rose was watching them. She scooped up Perky Hen and took her to the farmhouse, where she prepared a special bed of dried hay and straw for Perky. She cared for Perky's sore areas and fed her special cracked corn. She was so kind to me, Perky clucks. She always is. Yes, you needed extra kindness, but when the other chickens knew Perky Hen was getting special attention, they became even more jealous. They began pecking the ground and screeching and flapping their wings and letting anger get the better of them. Well, Perky Hen made us so mad that day, squawks a large chicken. We thought she was Miss Rose's favorite. Cluck, cluck, cluck. We wanted special cracked corn, too. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Do you remember when Horace Mouse tried to tell you that jealousy never makes things better? It always makes things worse. Oh, but you chickens were really upset, and you wouldn't listen. I know, cluck, cluck. We were upset and jealous, the large chicken sighs. When all the chickens got upset, I got upset too, stutters Hardy Goat. I don't know why, but I did. I butted into their conversation. I told Horace Mouse to mind his own business. I told him to butt out. I'm embarrassed to think about it now. I got involved too, Cleo purrs. I was not on my best behavior that day. I yelled at Hardy Goat. It was perfectly stupid for me to tell a goat to stay out of a chicken's business. Here's Cleo Cat. She's sorry that she butted into somebody else's conversation. She's a little bossy. I remember now, bleats Horace Goat. You told me that I didn't even belong here. You said I was here because I had no friends and I had nowhere else to go. You didn't want me here. We were bad. We acted badly, cries Fuzzy Lamb. Even poor Cinnamon Bun was treated badly that day. Horace Goat was angry that Cinnamon Bun got to spend so much time with Miss Rose. Horace Goat thought it was unfair that he got to leave the barn every day and go out on the riding trails. Cinnamon Bun nods his head and shakes his long mane. There's another picture of Cinnamon Bun. He says, I remember. After that, all the chickens got upset all over again. They started screeching, see, Hardy Goat and Cleo Cat are jealous too. If they can be jealous, so can we. But, bleated Hardy Goat, I did feel Cinnamon Bun was Miss Rose's favorite. I thought he might get me sent away. Remember, Hardy Goat is just a visitor. He hasn't been adopted into the family yet. Cluck, cluck, replied the chickens, and we thought Perky Hen got more attention from Miss Rose. We thought that was unfair. Well, I was jealous of Stewie Dog, Cleo Cat meows loudly. He was always up at the farmhouse. He gets to sleep on Miss Rose's lap. I guess we weren't very nice to each other that day, were we? Do you remember what else happened that day? Asks Horace Mouse. The fire, squeals Suey Pig. The fire, brays Fuzzy Lamb. That terrible fire, squawks Perky Chicken. Yes, Albert Owl answers. That was almost the end of our home. Tell our friends about the story, Albert Owl, squeals Horace Mouse. Oh, Albert Owl, please tell the story, oinks Stewie Pig. Please, Albert, please tell our friends what happened that day, bleats Fuzzy Lamb. All right, Albert Owl says, gather around. Can everyone hear me? The animals all nod yes. Well, here is how it happened. Albert shifts his body from one leg to the other and begins his story. It was late summer. The sun was low in the sky over the pasture. The days were growing shorter. The nights were getting cooler. Miss Rose came to our barn to tell us it was time to bring hay in from the field. Most of you know that's a very hard job. The bales of hay were very large and very heavy. I remember watching the men load each bale into their old red truck. Albert Owl looked out toward the field. I remember that day so well. It had started to rain, just a light rain at first. Then it began to rain harder. All the animals listened to Albert Owl. I'm thinking it might rain here too. Oh, I remember, barks Stewie Dog. I was in the field and I got so wet. Miss Rose does not let me sleep on her lap when I'm wet. Hoo hoo, laughs Albert Owl. Well, on that rainy day, the men hurried to get all the hail bays into the dry barn. No matter how fast they worked, the bales did get wet. But even a few wet bales can be trouble. Wet hay bales can become very hot down deep inside where it cannot be felt. The men unloaded the truck and stacked the hail bays in large stacks in the barn. They didn't know a few had gotten very wet in the rain. For many days it seemed everything was okay. I smelled it first, Cinnamon Bun calls out. I was in my stall and I thought I smelled smoke. That's right, Horace Mouse replies. You stomped your hooves and swished your tail. Cinnamon Bun was whinnying very loudly, so I ran to alert Miss Rose that he needed to be let out of his stall. I was up on the roof of the farmhouse, Albert Owl explains. I could see orange flames coming from the back of the barn. That's where Cleo and her friends were sleeping. I flew to the barn to make some very scary noises. I had to make sure all the animals got out of the barn very fast. I was on the farmhouse porch, adds Stewie. I could hear Miss Rose on the phone. She was very excited. Please get firemen to my farm quickly, please, she cried. My barn is on fire. My animals are in great danger. The wet bales of hay started a fire. I know it doesn't make sense, does it, that something wet could make a fire? But bales of hay get very hot if they get damp, and sometimes they can start a fire. I was running everywhere, back and forth, trying to help everyone, squeaks Horace Mouse. Everyone was scared. So was I. Poor Sonny Calf needed help getting out of the barn, Horace Goat and I helped him stand up. We led him to safety. Remember, Sonny the calf has some problems, and he has a hard time getting around. Horace helped me too, bleats Fuzzy Lamb. I cannot see very well. I knew something was wrong. The smoke was making me sick. Hardy Goat helped me get away from that big fire. Now, you wouldn't think that these two would be getting along, but there they are. They had to get along to save each other. Horace was a hero that day, Suey Pig squeals. He helped so many of us. I can't walk very fast. I limp because one of my legs is short. Horace Goat helped me out the doorway and into the field. I really needed his help that day. I was so afraid, purrs Cleo Cat. My pretty fur was getting messed up. The other animals moaned. But wait, Cleo continues. I went to check on the hens. I wanted to make sure they were safe. That day I decided to stop thinking about myself. Cleo Cat thinks about herself a lot. But on this day, she knew she had to help others. Cluck, 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 Perky Chicken says. You were a good friend to us that day, Cleo. My pleasure, purrs Cleo. And best of all, your hen house was perfectly fine. May I continue now? Albert Owl asks. Well, it took the firemen a lot of time to put out that fire. When they were finished, there was nothing left of our home. Oh, our very special home was gone. That surely was a sad day for all of us. I know how I felt, Horace Goat said softly. I felt so sorry for all of you. I know what it feels like to have no place to go home to. And here are the firemen trying to put out this terrible fire, and it destroyed the barn. But Horace knows what it feels like to have no home, doesn't he? In the doorway, Miss Rose was listening. None of the other animals except Stewie, she was there. It was a very sad day, she says softly, as she holds Stewie close. But we are all family. We are good friends, and we take care of one another. She gives each of her farm animals a big smile. Now look at your beautiful new home. The barn is rebuilt better than ever. Miss Rose takes a seat on an old wooden stool in the middle of the group. And here's a picture of Miss Rose and her dog, Stewie. I know you used to have trouble getting along. Horace Goat lowers his head. Miss Rose says, I know each of you can feel jealousy, just like people. Sometimes that jealousy can make us feel angry, and when we are angry, we sometimes become mean to one another. She looks at each of the animals. Do you remember when Hardy Goat came here with no place to go? Poor Hardy was hungry and thirsty. He needed our love and attention. Miss Rose leans over and pats Hardy Goat between his floppy ears. After the fire, all of you were in Hardy Goat's place. You had no home until a new one could be built. Miss Rose explains, "Do you remember how it felt to not have a home?" "Everyone is welcome here on Miss Rose's farm," she continued. Hardy Goat listened quietly. "Some of you have been on this farm a very long time," Miss Rose says. "Some of you came to our family as strays, with nowhere else to go. We must learn to be kind and compassionate to everyone, to treat one another with respect and kindness, no matter what." The lamb and the pig are together. They're listening to Mrs. Rose's wise words that we all have to get along. The animals nodded their head in agreement, even Fuzzy Lamb. He knew that Miss Rose loved all of them the same. She didn't have favorites. Hardy Goat was not going to change Miss Rose's love for each of the animals. "You know," Miss Rose continued, "it seems it takes a very sad event to make us realize how lucky we are and how much we truly love one another." The animals all came together. Look at the top. They're all coming together. They realize that they need to be friends. And here at the bottom, you can see too, they're all coming together to be friends. Very important that we understand and respect one another and develop friends. A tear slowly runs down Horace Goat's wide nose. "I am the luckiest goat on earth. I have a family that truly loves me." From the old stone barn on Miss Rose's farm comes a beautiful song of bleats and squeaks and oinks and clucks and moos and meows, a bark, a whinny, and a loud hoot from Albert Owl. Everyone was happy and very thankful. The end. Do you see that dog? He's being kind of silly. He's so happy. Here's a section of the book that is kind of important where we talk about what do you do if you find a stray animal. It says, "Miss Rose, what should I do if I find an animal that might be hurt?" Here's a picture up in the corner of two little animals, a cow and a cat. And the child is asking Miss Rose, "What should I do if I find an animal that might be hurt?" The other day I was walking along and I found a bird that had gotten entangled in some seaweed down at the beach, and I didn't know quite what to do. Let's find out. Miss Rose says, "We all want to help animals in need, but we must be careful. It's not safe to go near injured animals. They may not act like your pets at home. They may not understand that you are trying to help them. Because they are afraid, they might try to bite you if you get too close. The best thing you can do is to tell a trusted adult. They can call someone who is trained to handle the animal safely." Look at these two. Aren't they funny? Animals really do like each other. Here's another question from Miss Rose. It says, "Miss Rose, sometimes I see raccoons in my yard or a squirrel. One time I even saw a possum. Is it okay to feed them?" Miss Rose says, "It's very exciting that you have animal life in your own yard. I know you would like to help these cute, fuzzy animals. Even if they look hungry, you shouldn't feed them. Wild animals need a diet that is very special to them. They could get sick from the food you give them. These animals could stop searching for their own food if they know you're going to feed them every day. That would not be good for them. Remember, these animals are not pets. They could bite or scratch by accident. Bird feeders are okay when filled with wild bird seed. You can watch them safely from your window." And here's a picture of Miss Rose and the real Stewie. We had Stewie in the book, but this is the real Stewie. And I want you to know that Miss Rose was adopted just like Horace Goat. Remember in the story, Horace Goat didn't have anywhere to go, and finally he fit in and he was adopted into his animal family. Well, when Miss Rose was a young girl, she was adopted too, and she learned how to fit into her family. And I'll bet we all know someone who has been adopted. And I just want to show you one last picture. This is one of my favorites. Look at those two little animals. Do you recognize them? Sunny Calf and Suey Pig? It says, "Remember, always be kind to others. Your friend, Miss Rose." Well, we're going to close here, and I want to thank you for being with me today as we read this wonderful book, Paws, Claws, Feathers, and Fur, How Will We All Get Along? I hope you enjoyed it today, and I hope you'll find other books that you enjoy reading, because reading is so very important. Take care, and remember, be kind to one another.